everything. Well, the final 2 episodes of Michael Jordan's documentary, The Last Dance, air this Sunday. I do not want this to end. But Shannon, what do you want to see from both episodes 9 and 10? Oh, come on. What do you want to see?
Maybe a bonus track about the Washington days. You know, those 2 years in Washington happened, right, Jenny? I mean, because he did bring Scottie Pippen. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Skip, was he on the roster in 94? So I'm trying to figure how does anything from 1994 season, how does that make The Last Dance? Only to make Scottie Pippen look bad because he wouldn't go in and take the final, and pass the ball in to Tony Kukoc to take the last shot. How does that make The Last Dance? What they got to do with Mike? Mike wasn't even there. Mike was in Birmingham. But somehow that made it. So I just want to see some of the old bonus track. See what it was like in Washington and D.C. Because they were very happy to go see him play. No, Skip, I think in all honesty, all seriousness, all jokes aside, I don't really know what I'm looking for, Skip. I want to know how he's, obviously the last shot's going to be in there, but I just want to know. So we've seen, you know, the maturation of Mike, and we've seen the behind the scenes of how he got guys motivated. Skip said it was just motivation. It was harsh motivation. It could be construed as bullying. All that aside, I don't really know where it's going to go now, Skip. I really don't. Other than the last shot, which that's your favorite moment in sports history, because you purchased purchased that photo to see Michael Jordan hold that pose. You probably got him to sign it too. I bet you did. I bet you got him to sign it. You think you're slick, Skip Bayless. But
I did not.
Oh, you didn't get it?
No.
So, Skip, I really don't. Honestly, in all honesty, Skip, I do not have any idea what these last 2 episodes is going to encapsulate. Because basically you got 2 hours, and basically it's the final shot. So I don't know where we're going from here.
Okay. To your first point, semi-serious. Yes, he did come back after 3 years off. The last 3 years of his prime, ages 35, 36, and 37. He did not play basketball. Why, I don't know. That's what I'd like to hear. But he did come back. This is The Last Dance. This is about the 1998 season, the final one in Chicago. But 4 years later, he came back at age 38 and 39 to Washington. He played okay. He wasn't in the best shape. He did smoke too many cigars at that point. He averaged 23 and 6 the first year and 20 and 6 the second year. It wasn't pathetic, but it wasn't pretty.
No,
the point is,
he had moments.
He had his moments here and there, but whatever. This is about 98. This is about how it ended and why it ended. And again, I was there in 98 as the columnist of the Chicago Tribune. And what was often perplexing to me was Michael spoke a lot to the media without really speaking. He was the master of the cliche, and he could say a whole lot without saying much of anything, unless you really backed him into a corner with a pointed question, as I did about, Michael, Phil keeps saying that it's a done deal. You're just going to quit when he has to walk out the back door. And Michael said, that's Phil's opinion. That's when I had some hope. Okay, maybe Michael isn't going to just go with Phil out the back door. But the point is, he's rarely spoken his heart on what really happened. So, Shannon, I'm hoping that we get to see that guy who's now kicked back in that easy chair in these interviews. He's got a cigar, and he's got a little something in his glass, and they keep filling it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want him to, so to speak, let his hair down. I know he doesn't have a whole lot of hair left, but whatever's up there, let it down. Let us see what's inside you. Let us hear on the basketball court what happened in what's called the flu game, the classic flu game at Utah in the 97 finals. Let us hear what was in your heart, soul, mind against the Pacers. Shannon, I was there. I covered all 7 of those games in the conference finals in 98. It was a hellacious contest between a team coached by Larry Bird, who was the coach of the year in the NBA that year, and the star was, as you know, Reggie Miller, but it was deep in talent and firepower. Rick Smits, the 2 Davises, obviously Chris Mullin, Jalen Rose, Travis Best, Mark Jackson. It was a loaded basketball team that caused Michael and company a whole lot of problems. The home team won all 7 games of that series, including the Bulls winning Game 7, 88-83 at home. It was knockdown, drag out. Reggie says that the Pacers we see the previews for what's coming up in episode 9. Reggie says that the Pacers were just better than the Bulls. He might have been right about that, except for that one guy on the Bulls. And then we come to the last shot game at Utah. And I've told you, Scotty was sick before the game, and then he wrenched his back on an early wide-open dunk, and he was virtually useless the rest of the game, scored 8 points. In that game, Michael scored 45, while the whole rest of the team scored 42. So what's going on in his head during that game? Because they were pretty sure they wouldn't have Scotty for a potential Game 7 at Utah. So is Michael saying it's do or die now? I have to make this shot on Brian Russell. I got to go steal the ball first from Karl Malone. I got to close the deal now because we might not be able to close it in Game 7. I want to hear that. And finally, as we talked about to start the show, Shannon, I want to hear, does he have any regrets for not going to Jerry Reinsdorf and saying, hey, let's make a deal. Let's compromise here.
Yeah.
I'll stay.
Yeah.
I know Phil and Jerry do not invite him anymore. The bridge is burned. I get it. They can't coexist anymore. So give me a made man. Give me Doug Collins back as my coach next year. Don't give me Tim Floyd. Jerry Krause had fallen in love with Tim Floyd. He's a nice guy. I got to know Tim very well the next year. But Tim was a rising college basketball coach. He'd done really well at New Orleans. And then at Iowa State, they'd gone to 3 straight NCAAs. He was a fine young coach who then was a disaster the next 3 years without Michael and got fired in the 4th year. So the point was, if Michael said, give me somebody with some NBA experience who I could respect, I'll come back for 2 more years. Well, I want to know, will Michael talk about that in episode 10 on Sunday night?
Yeah.
I want to know. I want to hear it from the GOAT's mouth. What happened? Why did it happen?
Yeah, you're right, Skip. That would be very interesting if he would reflect back and say, you know what, one of my biggest regrets is that I did not go talk to Jerry Reinsdorf, and I did not get him to try to change his mind on bringing Phil back. Skip, look, it's hard for me to believe, but Jerry Reinsdorf and Phil Jackson, they don't have to communicate. They're not communicating about game plans. Your office is in one corner, mine's in the other, and so we don't have to get along. Just, hey, you get the players and do what contract, all that stuff. Let Phil work with the team. You guys stay out of each other's hair. So that's the way it's going to be.